After dating for 5 years, my fiancé told me he wasn't sure about marrying me. Then he joked in front of his friends, "If you were prettier, I'd marry you." This morning, his mom called me in tears. Dominic and I have been together for just over 5 years, engaged for the last 8 months. We met through mutual friends at a housewarming party. Just two people hitting it off over a shared hatred of IPAs and love for 90s cartoons. Our relationship progressed at a comfortable pace, dating for a year, moving in together after 2, adopting our cat, Beans, at 3, and getting engaged last summer. The proposal wasn't extravagant, just a Saturday morning hike to our favorite lookout point, where he nervously fumbled the ring box out of his pocket. I said yes immediately. We set the date for this October and have been slowly planning everything. Well, mostly me planning while he nodded along. About 3 months ago, Dominic started making odd comments when we discussed wedding plans. Nothing outright negative, just hesitant. When I showed him potential venues, he'd say things like, "That's a lot of money for just one day," or, "Do we really need to invite all those people?" I brushed it off as typical guy behavior or budget concerns. Then came the delayed responses to my texts about wedding stuff. I'd sent him options for caterers, and he'd reply hours later with just "looks fine" or "whatever you want." When I asked if everything was okay, he'd say he was just busy at work. His construction company had taken on some big projects, so it made sense. Last month, he started going out more with his work friend Paul. They'd grab beers after work or watch games at Paul's place. Again, nothing unusual, just more frequent than before. When he'd come home, he seemed distant, checking his phone more often and being less affectionate. I tried talking to my best friend Lena about it. She suggested pre-wedding jitters and recommended we have a date night to reconnect. So last Friday, I made reservations at this new Italian place downtown, put on a nice dress, not too fancy, just something I hadn't worn in a while, and even bought Dominic's favorite beer to have waiting in the fridge. The date night was a disaster. He seemed distracted throughout dinner, barely engaging in conversation. When I brought up finalizing our honeymoon plans, he dropped the bomb. He wasn't sure if he was ready for all this. Not just the honeymoon, but the wedding, marriage, everything. I was stunned. 5 years together, 8 months engaged, and now he wasn't sure? When I pressed him, he mentioned conversations with Paul about how marriage changes things and referenced Paul's brother's messy divorce. The discussion quickly escalated, with me trying not to cause a scene in the restaurant while feeling like my world was collapsing. We barely touched our entrees. The ride home was silent, thick with tension. At our apartment, he deflected further conversation, saying he needed time to think before sleeping on the couch. A few hours later, Lena called and convinced me to get out of the apartment. We went for coffee, and I unloaded everything. Lena listened patiently, suggesting that maybe Dominic was just experiencing normal pre-wedding anxiety. By early evening, I felt calmer and decided to head home. I was pulling into our apartment complex when I got a text from Kylar, one of Dominic's co-workers I'd met at the company Christmas party. The message asked if I was okay, mentioning that things got weird at the Rusty Nail. I called Kylar instead of texting back. He sounded uncomfortable, initially reluctant to share details. With some pressing, he finally revealed what happened. The guys had been giving Dominic a hard time about wedding planning, and when Paul asked if he was ready to be with one woman forever, Dominic expressed doubts about the wedding timing. When Paul asked what was holding him back, Dominic, who was apparently drunk, said something like, "If you were prettier, I'd be more excited about marrying you." Then he laughed it off like it was a joke. Kylar told me he and some other guys called Dominic out for the comment, but Dominic just got defensive and said they couldn't take a joke. I sat in my car crying for 20 minutes after that call. The man I'd loved for 5 years, who I thought loved me, had publicly joked about my appearance being the reason he was hesitant to marry me. I can't tell what happened next in this short video. The full story is on the channel, link below.